All right, good afternoon and welcome to the Healthy Living Podcast, brought to you by Willow Creek Springs. I'm Joe Grumbine. I am your host, and I have today back for a second time, which means we did all right the first time, Richard McCuen. And welcome, Richard. It's so good to have you back. I'm so glad, like this, a lot of times I got to wait and schedule people weeks out, and you were like, hey, let's keep going. And I am excited. This is fantastic.
Yeah, it's for a good cause, and it's pretty much information everybody needs to know, and if somebody has the ability to heal, that has a different aspect that, somebody else can utilize, that's, where you need to start expressing yourself, as far as, what you feel inside, you need to express it to someone else, because that's information and knowledge that somebody else needs that can heal as well. So,
Exactly. And that's kind of the whole idea of a community, is where we all have things in common, right? We're all human beings. We all are alive. We're all here on Earth. Those are three things in common that we all have, no matter what.
No matter what.
Have a lot of differences too, but the things that I think we also have in common is a desire to live our best life, to be as healthy and as productive and to live out our potential if we can. And I think that we all have a different path. We're all made differently. We all have different chemistry, different color tones, different whatever, everything else, we're all different, right?
Yep.
But we have that in common. And I think that sharing the different roads that we travel, the different pitfalls we face, the different solutions we've come up with, I think that's what makes this community important, because as unique as we all are, like we all have a very unique thumbprint, right? Mine is not like yours.
No.
Mine's not like anybody else's. And even I think the irises, we have a unique iris print.
Yes.
But there are things that we have that are very common. Like there's only so many basic personality types. There's only so many basic body types. There's only so many basic hair colors. There's certain things that we all kind of fit into a group. And I think that as long as we're able to share these experiences, there's probably a group of people that would go identify with yours, identify with mine, and go, hey, that sounds like me. Maybe I could try that.
Yeah. And pretty much the only thing that separates, man, woman, anyone on this planet from each other is level of discipline, and how you're taught that discipline, your belief system and what you believe, your existence is and your powers and what you're good at, and bringing that out within you determines on your environment. And usually our environment is always pointed against us, because of we consume everybody else's emotions of what they feel they can't do. So as a warrior, you're taught to deal with all that on the tip of the spear, and let all your emotions go, because now they're worldwide. So when all that goes away and dissipates, yeah, all that, what you're physically seeing is gone, but emotionally, all that's still there.
Right.
And when you're alone with all your thoughts, and that's for anybody, a child, whoever, that's when you conflict the battle in your mind and play the games, because it's all what you're remembering with your emotional pain is, oh, this person said this, or I'll never be this, or why you let people, and it just keeps going, and it buries you, you're emotionally to where you can't breathe. So
yeah, we're generally our own worst enemy in our own heads. Like you look at the angst of a kid or of anybody, and you if you were to take and make a movie out of what the thoughts that were going inside their head, just like what you were describing, those are feelings that everybody has probably had, feelings of insecurity, feelings of lack of worth, feelings of I can't, feelings of, it's so much, or that person is so, much more, whatever, all the things that we do. And then you juxtapose that with what's really happening inside our minds. We're like this giant magnifying glass, and whatever little thing is, we just take it, make it huge. So So,
The ego does that.
yeah, and we never seem to do it to help ourselves. I think, psychotic narcissists, they do it the opposite. I think
Yes, the opposite.
they make themselves into these, God beings, and they don't see any of their downside. But most regular humans, I think we're the opposite. We're pretty hard on ourselves.
Yes, and that's pretty much where whenever I went to doctors, because of my medical condition of the brain injury, I didn't, everything I was searching was, I would have to get from a doctor. So going and seeing the doctors, I mean, I went through a neurologist, brain neurologist that wasn't even for my condition, so that was the treatment, that I was, had to go through to heal. And it was just monotonous and just paperwork. And I didn't get any healing, so whenever I was introduced to your CBD, that was the only thing it took, and pretty much became my medicine. And started researching, playing my own doctor, and utilizing the pituitary gland and how it functions, and what our bodies are made of, just the makeup of how God made us. And CBD was actually produces our bodies. That's why it's in, doctors tell you women to feed their baby because it's in breast milk. It strengthens our bones. I've seen that in my mom. Uh,
Right.
she broke her hip, at the ball, and she's 81, and she's been taking the CBD, thank you Jesus, for the past 3 years or a little bit longer, and that helped strengthen her. And she's already, within 2 weeks, she's already home. She's up walking and doing and functioning like I got this, and it's
Nice.
CBD. And it's not something that, yeah, we're introducing it from an outside perspective of the body, but it's still being introduced back into the body where it came from, originated, and over time your body's stop producing that oil because of the inflammation and destruction that we do to our bodies as we age. So the CBD brings you back to that homeostasis and brings you back to that realism of both, hey, I'm young again, let's go do this. I don't have the aches and pains to sit on the couch and just, complain. You have that clear thought neurologically to, go and be yourself. So the push-up program that I did, it introduced, an open perspective of how can I reach other veterans because of what I did as a test dummy, of taking, the right medications and putting it into my body. And because if I would have taken the pharmaceutical meds, I wouldn't be the person I am today. It would have changed me. I'd be in a wheelchair. I would just probably hate life. So finding things that are natural, it's what's in your body. It reproduces. That's what your body needs. And it's the number one inflammation, healer for your body is the CBD. So I just started reaching out to veterans, like how can I reach and help them? So the sleep syrup and the CBD together is the veterans combo is what I was calling.
Have you ever tried the joint juice?
The joint juice I started later on, but I didn't do it as whenever I was tying it with the program because I wanted the healing, the mental and the physical as well. It's like, what can be replaced is like pre-workout supplements and stuff,
Yeah.
because you're putting all these bad chemicals and pre-supplements in your body to load you to go heal your body and reproduce, new cells and new growth, but based on what you're putting in your body. So
Right.
the CBD and especially the pill form, it's isolate, so it penetrates the receptors in the body, which is more of a molecular cellular level, and it penetrates and you get more healing into your CBD2 receptors. So the combo between those two, your homeostasis, and I push past, stuck points to where, I can't get past this, and boom, it's like I'm pushing through. And it's just like, wow, your recovery rate is pretty much 50% better than it was before. And it's just, you have more energy. Because your mind is more clear in thought. So that's pretty much, what I introduced into like what I do with the the physical training standard dynamics. I don't call it PTSD because
I love it.
yeah, I've looked at if in anyone that's listening to this, or you can just look up the definitions of post and traumatic and stress and disorder. There are
Yeah.
different entities, that, and that's pretty much what the VA does, and why veterans don't get any help, in that part of the sector of the world,
Right.
other than civilian, is because it's based off the same pharmaceutical medication. Here you need this to get back, and it just
That's the saddest recurring story that keeps coming in. If you listen to different episodes of this podcast, you'll hear different people from all different points of view, all different walks of life, all different sets of problems, and they all say this one thing in common: I had this thing happen. I had an accident, I had an injury, I had a disease, I had something happened, I had to go to get medical care, and then they started putting me on these drugs, and then I didn't like the way they made me feel. I didn't like this side effect. I was on a cocktail. We have so many people, they get put on 10 different drugs because one causes another thing and that causes another thing, and they got to have this whole cocktail to try to balance it all out. And you end up being a walking zombie that can't shit. And that's what everybody ends up being, is the same walking zombie, and nobody can shit. I'm like,
and they got to make up a new cocktail to give you because that cocktail didn't work, and then you're even more screwed up, and it just keeps going.
And the psych meds get introduced into it because you're already getting nutty over it.
Yeah.
And I watch people that decide to go the natural route, and you know what? There are some things that I don't necessarily have an answer for. And there are some things that maybe Western medicine has a good answer for. I don't take away from anything. There's a time and a reason for everything. Just like, the verse, to everything, there's a season, right? And some things that are seeming like, what the hell do you need that for? Well, you got to have it for some reason. And so I don't, as much as it's distasteful to me, I think that in certain cases, there's a place for probably all these things. But when that's the front line, that's the first thing you do, and you don't even give something a chance, like your own body's healing system, like you said, homeostasis, that word just means balance, putting yourself back in balance.
Right.
Why wouldn't you start there? I mean, to me, it seems like let's start with the easy stuff that doesn't break anything, and then get aggressive if you need to.
Yeah, it all starts with yourself. You have to want to have that ability. You could talk to people and blue in the face, and they'll follow you and say yeah, and they agree. But when it comes to that, in that moment where it's good night, the lights are off, and it's just you, they're still thinking about you.
Right.
And it's because you have to be able to do it for yourself enough. Each and every person will come to a breaking point, like mentally, about what they deal with emotionally at some point in their life, to where they're going to just say enough is enough. And I'm tired of feeling this way. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm tired of how I'm thinking. Something needs to change.
So that moment that you're describing, in my opinion, that's one of the most powerful moments that each of us come to, and we come to it sometimes only once or twice in a lifetime, sometimes many times. If you're a seeker like me, I'm always trying to better myself. I'm always trying to push past where I am and get to where I'm going. You run into these moments all the time where you just like, I've had it. I'm going down this road. I'm not going to do this anymore.
One of the things, I don't think, this is like just how my mind thinks. And it's one of the things that's helped me like really jump outside the box and really think of things, is the military teaches you think, like, that's where like the yellow footprints come from, and mindset of pretty much I psychologically broke down the reasons of why they do each phase and why they yell and all this stuff. And one of the things is a veteran, every single one of them, even including myself, when I had to deal with all my issues as I thought I had to deal by myself, was I was alone. But one of the things when you go through training, or even in the, I don't care if you're in the Army, Navy, Air Force, or Marines, better say Marines,
Of course.
is they teach you it's a fighting hole. And you dig a fighting hole and it's 2 man. You have your buddy. Your buddy is the buddy system. The psychological factor of digging that fighting hole with your buddy is you always have somebody there with you.
Somebody's got your
You
back.
have somebody to pull you up out of that hell.
Yeah.
So remember that when you're down in the dark and you just want to let go, you remember you're in that fighting hole. You ain't alone.
Right.
You have somebody, and that's the help. That's
Yeah.
at the point where you say enough is enough. I can't do it by myself. I need that help. And that's what the program teaches you in the strength, is because the warriors today are being treated like sheep, and instead of the sheepdogs of this world.
Right.
It's crushing. How do you shape that with, if you have children or your own thoughts, or you want to help somebody else, you can't, because you're not yourself. So whenever you can push your own body weight, you're pushing your own problems.
Absolutely.
All that weight is on your back, just like the weight that you keep in your mind that isn't there. Everybody else, that's the whole world. You carry that weight on the world on your back. Well, push it all through. And somewhere you'll find that number that feeds you to where it stabilizes you and no one can touch you anymore. And that's where the program starts, is you got to start with yourself. And if you get down and you can push once, you can do it again. You don't have to worry about 1,000 push-ups or whatever. It's, you did one push-up, that means it's out of your mind. You're working out the number 2. Why? Because you already did one. One isn't a matter anymore. You can do 2, and so on and so on. So the 1,000 becomes not limitless. It becomes pulled into perspective to where it can be achieved. And
That's
that's
like that old adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
one with a small fork.
Yeah, exactly.
One
One bite
bite
at a time. Yeah. And that's how those push-ups are. Each one by itself isn't a huge obstacle to overcome, unless you're 800 pounds or something. Generally, most people can figure out how to do one, even like you said, start out sissy style and do one. And then you build from there. Then you're just building. You're building on top of it. And then it's so much easier. There's 2 places that are the hardest. It's from going from still to moving a little bit, and going from moving back to still. Those 2 things to finish, to start it and to finish it. Those 2 things are the hardest points. But once it's moving even a little bit, it's easier to keep it moving. And that's what I've learned, getting momentum going. I'm sure there's theories and practices in the military that have to do with momentum, because everything drives from momentum. Once you get it going, you get some motion going, and then boom, you can just keep punching it through. It goes faster, farther, and deeper. But the second you stop, it's pushing back on you, and you're like swimming back upstream again. Correct.
And that's where a lot of people think emotionally is they got to keep swimming upstream. How do I get out? Instead of just going with the flow, and that calmness will get you out of that storm to where you can start to think, because you're still going to go down that river. It's you're different.
There's no way getting around it.
Right. So
you go under it, you got to go down it.
Of the water, I mean, if it's going to be stormy, get out of that storm. How do you get out of that? And it's opening your mind up to newer things, newer possibilities that, and you're not alone,
So as you're going down in your journey, obviously your personal achievements, in my opinion, are always the most important, because without you having achieved anything, how can you share that with anybody else? So I always say, people come to me and they're like, oh, I want to go help everybody. I'm like, well, you gotta make sure you got something to give. You can't be broken down and spent and think you're going to go hand stuff out, because you don't have anything to pull from. So you got to help yourself first to where you're able to. And then once you do, then you are given a gift of empathy, because now all of a sudden how other people feel that were in your shoes, because you've been there. And so it seems that we all go through trials and tribulations of one way or another. Could be physical, mental, spiritual, a combination of all of them, whatever it is. But when we go through the hardest things, then all of a sudden, somehow magically, people that have those same problems find us. And now we could be the ones that can help them. We're the only ones that can help them.
Yep.
You know, if you've been through a certain type of struggle, whether it's having a spouse die or losing a finger or having a whatever, it doesn't matter, whatever it is. And you come into somebody who's got that same problem, they're like, man, you don't know what I'm going through. I'm like, yes, I do. And that's it. Then they go, oh, you share that with me. And then boom, it's a whole different conversation, right?
Yeah.
So you probably are running into people, and if they haven't found you yet, I'll bet you they're 2 steps behind you right now, and they're ready to knock on your door that have probably gone through some of the similar things that you've gone, because somehow that light flips on and we find those people, I think, that need to hear from us. I'll bet you that's happening.
Well, one of the going through, transitioning through the process of healing, one of the things I went through was 2 years of talk therapy, and it was with a lieutenant colonel, and that's all we did was just talk. It was like going to pretty much his house and, hey, how are you? And just sitting there and having a conversation. And one of the things,
Kind of like what we're doing.
yeah, correct. Pretty much, yeah, or even on the phone, it's talk therapy. You're talking to your, loved one or whatever, how your day was. It's still pretty much the same logic.
Right.
And one of the things he taught me in there was, he said, whatever's in here, he said, name it, give it a face, give it a name. And I didn't really understand that at first, because I didn't want nothing in here to have a name or anything, to have ownership, except my brain. So the only image that popped up was the Hulk. And that's just considered like where I was inside with all the pressure and emotional distress that, that I was feeling. That was compatible to me. So I ended up, instead of raging at the Hulk, talking to the Hulk.
Nice.
Talking inside, and that's where the yellow footprint fitness combating the silent ghost came from, because everyone has that ghost, it's that little voice inside that haunts you.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much mentally, I was pushed in the background in my backyard, one push-up at a time, like I was actually a Marine on a mission, cameled up, snipered out in the jungle, and I'm looking for my enemy, that was within, and that was pretty much how I built the structure mentally to climb out of the hell that, was put onto me, cast onto me. And it helped physically and emotionally, because my body was broken, so kind of like Marcus Luttrell, and he's telling a story, and all the injuries, if every injury that man suffered, Jesus. And he would say, draw a line right in the middle of the sand and crawl across it. And then if he could do that, he could do it again. So I said, 1 for 1. If I can do a push-up, I could do another push-up.
Yep.
I ain't no Marcus Luttrell, I'm me, but I can take his power and I can save my life.
Exactly.
And that's how I built the 1,000, because it took me 1,000 lines to be saved.
Right.
And what it did up here was reset my brain, emotionally, physically. I wasn't in my head. I could sleep better. I was more functional around my family. And with the CBD and everything, it just made me more homeostasis and calm. And so I built it into a program, and people around the world have been using it. And it's something that I built out of pain. And to me, that's something I'm proud of, because it was what I did with what happened to me, instead of complain. Like when you complain and you about everything as a victim, poor me, this and that. Well, yeah, everybody goes through something, but what you're going to do about what you went through, that's where the journey and power comes from. It's, everyone's going to get knocked down, but not everybody's going to get up.
Exactly. It's the lemonade theory. You get a bunch of lemons, and what are you going to do with them? You know, wine
Make
and
some
bitch and
lemonade.
gripe, you make some
Yeah.
damn lemonade, yeah.
Yeah. So I made my own lemonade and it just resonated with others. And you don't have, it's not about 1,000. It's about where mentally and what structures that you can put together to where you have the right tools in your toolbox that you can pull out anytime whenever something isn't right and you feel off, and that's pretty much how things are going now, and where things are aligning is coming back to that is because the whole world needs that, especially with where the world is now,
Well,
It's just going outside and just talking to people saying hi. They freak out because they don't know like really how to interact with, human
yeah,
beings,
people got locked up in their own little box with these things,
right,
and they don't know how to have one of these, just have a conversation, look somebody in the
right.
eye and smile.
Like they look at you like you're crazy or something. And I just keep waving,
Yeah,
and it makes somebody feel better. And that's what it's about, get off the phone, get out of, if you want to get outside and you don't feel
get some
good,
sun on your
change
face.
your environment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Well, Richard, we did it again. We burned up another half an hour. And but this is great. I like how the conversation's progressing. I'm looking forward to hearing more about your program and the people that have been touched by it. And we're going to talk next time, maybe a little bit about this new this new conversation we just had. I'm so excited to have you on the advisory team of the Gardens of Hope 501c3, where we're bringing therapeutic horticulture to people in need, and you're going to be instrumental on our veterans team. We now have a team of veterans that are advising us in how to bring these tools we have to the people that need it, and we're going to be weaving and building and helping and healing and helping everybody. And when we do that, all we do is help ourselves get even better. So I am excited to see this thing take off and move forward. So as always, I'm going to give you a parting shot. Is there anything you want to say, how people can get a hold of you? My guess is you're going to build quite a following, and you're going to have people reaching out going, hey, I saw you on that podcast. It sounds like you sound like something I went through. I'd sure like to talk. I'll bet you're going to start finding that happening once these episodes start coming to life.
That's cool. Yeah. If anybody has any questions, they want to get a hold of me, talk one-on-one, I'm all about that. You can reach me on the Facebook. I wish I had CBD, or on Instagram, and it just in the bio, it has all the information and everything. You can get in contact. And, I don't like airing anybody's business or telling anybody's stories, so I'm pretty.
No need for it.
Yeah. So you can get a hold of me and we can chit chat and we can get you on the right track to wherever you need to go. So it's just a great opportunity to come, back to the roots, to where everything started. And I actually feel, pretty honored to be part of the program and learn a lot more. So
we're honored to have you. All right, folks, this has been another episode of Healthy Living, brought to you by Willow Creek Springs, and we will see you next time.
Semper Fi.